Lorekanra and Pebble are back for our last session in Durotar. We just stayed the night in the Orgrimmar Inn. It was very loud, especially with Gammon here. You wouldn't think Taurens would be all that rambunctious, but this one is. Last session, we confronted water elementals for the first time. It didn't go as smoothly as Lorekanra was hoping, but what can you do? We ventured into a burning blade training cave and got some spell scrolls. Then we traveled over to the flooded river to help with the relief effort over there. We will pop on over to the quest right outside Orgrimmar, which I believe is the continuation of our burning blade problem. Reviewing from our story from last time, the Draenei crash landed on Draenor. The orcs and the Draenei were ignoring each other for quite some time. They brought with them the Oshugun crystal, the Mountain of Spirits, which the orcs really liked. They also brought with them the Dark Star, which caused the orcs to go crazy. We finally got to meet our heroes, Durotan and Orgrim. They met and developed a friendship. They were both rescued by Draenei at some point. Durotan had some family problems growing up. We then met Gul'dan. He turned out to be not so nice, and he is allied with the Legion and become the first warlock. A terrible outbreak of redpox broke out among the orcs, and Durotan became the leader of the Frost Wolves because of it. That's a quick summary. Let's see what our quest givers have to say. You're the one handling the burning blade to the south? I've got ears in all kinds of places, my girl, and word travels fast. The flood to the southwest wiped out one of the few burning blade camps that still pockmark Durotar. This one was led by a goblin named Fizzle Darkclaw, and believe me, we're better off without him. Darkclaw, however, possessed an orb that the Horde is interested in procuring. Who knows why? I leave that to the warlocks. All I know is that I need that orb. Our army needs water, and luckily the elements gave us plenty of that when the cataclysm hit. The water that filled up the canyons to the southwest should do the trick. Unfortunately, the corpses of the thunder lizards still sit at the bottom of the canyon, and their electrical discharges are a bit too dangerous. I've got grunts that can lift them out of the water, but you need someone agile enough to attach the other end of the rope. Are you my woman, Lorekanra? My associate here has some plans for you that I don't agree with. His actions are hasty, uncontrolled, and irresponsible, and you may end up paying for them with your life. Before you work with gore, first listen to the tale that I have to tell. It's a moralistic story, a fable, but I believe its lesson will prove valuable. Speak to me when you're ready. Oh boy, I love stories.
Abu. Farewell.
One day, the wolf was very hungry, so he ran east to look for some food. The wolf was lazy and didn't want to work for his meal. The more he ran, the more his stomach growled. He was hungry for kodo meat. The wolf did not care for raptor meat. He happened upon a pair of battling kodos. Clever as he was, the wolf decided to wait for one of them to defeat the other. When the weaker kodo died, the wolf approached and tried to eat it. The remaining kodo, angry at the wolf's impetuousness, swiftly killed the wolf before he had a chance to eat. Things used to be so much better. What happened to us? The moral of the story: hasty, lazy actions have ruinous results. We mustn't take shortcuts. We must work for our rewards. I've been trying to tell this story to the Enforcer, but I fear his house cream worshipping skull is a little bit too thick.
What do you need?
Ignore that shaman, soldier. Certain powers that be with the horde demand that I keep him with me, but I assure you that thrall-loving farseer truly sees no farther than the borders of this hut. The elementals war against one another to the west of here. I normally wouldn't mind, but I need that land clear to secure a broader shipping route to and from the barrens. The elementals are normally quite strong, but they are weakened by their attacks against one another. Use this knowledge to destroy them. That little exchange of the orcs and the hut is a really good example of the Thrall versus Garrosh difference in leadership. Definitely one of the better flavored quest groupings in Durotar. I think we'll head over to the elementals, and I'm going to take his word for it that these are angry elementals and can't be dissuaded. I mean, if the shaman in the hut couldn't do anything about the elemental problem over here, then I probably wouldn't be able to persuade them. That shaman seemed pretty experienced. Okay, so let's head back to Draenor, where the orcs are struggling through the next 2 years. Don't forget that the elementals have withdrawn their aid for some reason, and aren't communicating with the shamans. The orcs never knew when the weather would turn against them. It was during this time that Gul'dan was found by the Shadow Moon clan leader. Gul'dan wandered weakly into their town, claiming he had barely escaped the ogre raid on his settlement. The ogres had killed all but him. Now Gul'dan had no one that remembered his weak past, and his manipulation of the Shadow Moon clan leader could begin. Not only was this leader in charge of the Shadow Moon orcs, he was the lead shaman of all the clans. His name was Ner'zhul. It was at the end of this second year, after Gul'dan had established trust with the Shadow Moon orcs, that all the orc clans received shocking news. The Draenei had slaughtered an entire clan of orcs, man, woman, and child. The Bladewind orcs had been destroyed. Okay, time to head over to Thunder Ridge and clean up the water here so I guess our armies can drink it. I really thought drinking flood water was a big no-no, but I guess if you boil it. So, of course, many of the orcs back on Draenor were shocked, especially the Frost Wolves, that the Draenei could possibly kill an entire orc clan. Durotan, the clan leader, had first-hand experience with their kindness. But Ner'zhul, the elder shaman of the Shadow Moon clan, went to investigate the settlement, and everything and everyone was dead, both Draenei and orc corpses. Fear gripped the orcs. The Draenei's technology was far more advanced than the orcs. If they were going to win any type of war, they needed to prepare now, and they needed to strike fast. Okay, it looks like this is the old burning blade encampment. I can't believe Pebble can swim. I was not expecting that. Okay, this looks like the goblin we need to get the orb from. It says Fizzle's body bobs lifelessly. His orb is clutched tightly in his right hand. I can attempt to remove the orb. I grab at the orb, but Fizzle's hand clutches around it even tighter. The orb glows slightly. Ick, I give up. This is too scary. Okay, I guess I have to do it in order to complete the quest. Lorekanra just has some fear issues, you know? And this is scary, and our breathing underwater buff just ran out. But fine, I'll pry open his hand and get the orb. Oh, he didn't wake up. He didn't turn into a zombie or anything. Well, I guess that wasn't really so bad. But I am all too happy to leave that water. Let's enjoy some of the peaceful music as we hop across these rocks and forget about what we just did. I found a quest I missed. Try to ignore the firm feathery behinds of the harpies. The creatures are really quite deadly. I'm Reslik, one of Gazlo's boys. Boss sent me to help the orcs here in Duratar. Things would be going good except for the caravans. Can't manage to keep them safe. Makes my job a little harder, you know? The last shipment, which they promised would get through, was snatched by the Dustwind Harpies of, where was it? Razorwind Canyon? I gotta have those supplies. And then he gives me some directions. Gazlo told me once, Reslik, there's one thing you need to know in life, and that's if you want something done, you gotta do it yourself. I can't deal with losing all of our caravans, so I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. Harpies plague the supply routes. If we kill the harpies, the caravans are safe. Of course, there was one other thing Gazlo taught me, and that's you can get anything done for a price. You in, Lorekanra? Good. I recommend starting in the canyon to the east. I suppose I probably could have summarized that. It's definitely a side quest, and you wouldn't have to listen to me botch a male Boston accent, but it did give us a nice little flavor of how goblins are, so I decided to read it. But let's be honest, Lorekanra has killed so many harpies at this point because I couldn't find that burning blade cave. So many harpy slayings later, we are returning to our goblin friend. He just says that he can breathe easy now that he knows his caravans won't go missing anymore, and he's looking forward to some fun little toys that are coming his way soon. And then says I'm pretty good at what I do and I should go visit his boss in Ratchet, which is Gazlo, I suspect. We'll return to our shaman and warrior friend in the hut here. See? The shaman's tales are nothing but that. A youngling's bedtime stories. The new horde takes what it wants and doesn't waste time with such frivolity. If you get a chance, I recommend you tell Shin, and those like him, not to waste any more of your time. Run into any trouble on the way? I asked for an orb, and you bring me half of the goblin's arm with you? I like the way you work. Tell you what, you've already given me a hand. Allow me to return the favor. He's giving me gloves as a reward. Haha. One of our more useful shaman, Margaz, knows more of the Burning Blade's corruption. He speaks of a cave called Skull Rock in the mountains just outside Orgrimmar that shelters a large band of Burning Blade cultists. He is camped to the southeast between the coast and Dry Gulch Ravine. Follow his advice, but whatever Margaz says, Lorekanra, I still want you to crush those cultists. I turned in the Thunder Lizard water quest. It looks like your services are being requested elsewhere. Ogtor Bloodfist is looking for recruits to assist the Horde's ventures into Ashara, north of Orgrimmar. I'm sure you still have work to do here in Duratar, and I understand that they'll shortly be asking for your help in the Barrens. I wouldn't be going anywhere yet if I were you, but if you are itching for some manifest destiny, Ashara awaits. Well, I definitely would like to finish Duratar before we head out anywhere else. I've never done Ashara, though, as an orc, just as the goblin starting area, so that might be interesting. But for now, let's head over to our other shaman that he directed us to for more Burning Blade story. The first part of this just says I have earned some reputation in the area, and that I should stay on the pure path. Lorekanra, the Burning Blade has infested the cave east of Orgrimmar known as Skull Rock. Inside that cave, they perform vile rituals and burn their own flesh with searing collars. By wearing these collars, I believe the cultists attune themselves to demonic power, but to confirm this, I must have a collection of the collars to study. Go to Skull Rock and gather searing collars from the cultists you find there. Bring them to me, and I will uncover their secrets. This guy is just sending me to his boss to the southeast. Says his boss needs supplies and help. So I came over to his boss, and it turns out I was supposed to bring wagon wheels and other supplies that the lackey didn't tell me. But this guy has a different task for us. We're supposed to go beat up his gladiators to see how good they are at fighting still, I guess. The gladiators are slaves that he has. One of them is a Naga, and she kind of lost her will to fight. I mean, who wouldn't if you're a slave fighting in an arena? The other one is a Tonka. They're related to Tauren. This one was apparently a traitor or something, which is why he's, quote, okay to be a slave gladiator. And the other one is a Worgen, who's technically on the Alliance, so I guess that also makes it acceptable to make him into a slave gladiator. So we're gonna go beat them up and see how well they're doing at hitting things. And that's the end of this quest chain. As far as in-game storyline goes, this quest definitely qualifies as side questy, pretty trivial, but it does give you a little bit of flavor for some of the events that happened outside of the World of Warcraft game in the novels. Some very important people were part of a slave gladiator ring in the books, which explains some of their absences in the World of Warcraft game. So this quest just shows that the gladiator slavery thing is still going on. While we go hit our gladiators, we might as well head back to Draenor. So the rumors around Draenor were that the Draenei had of course wiped out an entire orc clan, the Blade Wind Orcs, and finally the Koshark festival had arrived so they can discuss what to do. At the festival, not only were they credited with the destruction of the Bladewind Orcs, but there was also rumors saying that they had also corrupted the elements, and that they were the ones that had caused the Redpox outbreak at the last festival. To defeat them, they would need to unite once again. Gul'dan moved among the clans, encouraging a war. If even the weak-bodied Gul'dan wanted war, it would be cowardly to disagree. He, after all, was the only survivor of the Bladewind clan slaughter. He was a first-hand witness. The clans came to an agreement by the end of the festival. It was time to unite. They would call themselves the Horde. Gul'dan also had a new weapon they could use against the Draenei. It was called Fel Magic, and he could teach it to anybody who wanted. Gul'dan began training his first warlock apprentices from the Shadowmoon clan. It would be these warlocks that would overthrow the Shadow Clan leader Ner'zhul and take over the clan. The elements couldn't protect Ner'zhul from Gul'dan's treachery. As Ner'zhul faded from the public eye, trapped and enslaved by the warlocks, the war against the Draenei raged on. The problem is, all the orcs could do was take encampments and outposts. They weren't working together. The Legion knew this would only dwindle the numbers of their new pawns, so the demons tasked Gul'dan with finding a figurehead for the Horde. I turned in the quests, and he didn't have anything important to say, but he did tell me I should hurry along before he decides he wants to keep Horde slaves, i.e. me, because I was a good fighter, I guess.
Victory.
Okay, so we're just gonna head up and hang out with the Burning Blade cultists. Oh wait, who are these people? They look like very pale elves. This is a big gathering. Wonder what they're all waiting for. Hey look, they're right next to the cultists. What are they doing? Don't worry guys, me and Pebble will just take care of the cultists. You continue standing there looking at the road. It's cool. So back on Draenor, we're trying to find a figurehead, of course, for the orcs, or the Horde as they're now calling themselves. In enters Blackhand of the Blackrock clan. Now at first, Blackhand wasn't very interested in being a leader. The orcs weren't very good at taking orders from different clan leaders, so trying to keep them all in line sounded like a pretty big hassle. Gul'dan had some bargaining chips, though. He showed Blackhand not only the power of fell magic with his warlocks, but also that it could accelerate the growth of the clan's youth. They would become soldiers in a few days, without having to wait for normal maturity to happen. Blackhand was thrilled by the idea of having so many soldiers at his disposal and decided Gul'dan would be a very useful ally. He finally agreed. So Blackhand is nominated, and with a lot of arguing, he finally becomes the first war chief. Orgrim comes back into our story to be Blackhand's general, because he's turned into a boss with his Doomhammer.
Have you entered Skull Rock, Lorekanra? Do you have the searing collars? Good. Hiding within these collars is the secret behind the burning blade, and I will uncover that secret.
Margaz enters a trance. Margaz is burned by unleashed magic.
Ugh! The searing collars you brought me are powerful demonic implements. Divining their origin, I'm afraid, is beyond my skills as a shaman. We'll need a warlock to study them. Take the searing collar to Arnak Fireblade. Although he is a skilled warlock, he professes to use his powers to thwart demons and claims his research in the occult is benign. Be that true or false, we may need his aid against the demonic cult in Durator.
Looks like we have to head back to Orgrimmar so you guys can enjoy the city as we talk about the United Horde. The United Orcs needed a neutral capital where they could all meet. Blackhand created the Citadel, a fortress in the jungle. This was where the orcs from all clans would train as warlocks, and the elite council of warlocks, known as the Shadow Council, would meet. Warlocks were also sent to each clan to infuse the youth with fell power. As you can imagine, not every clan was on board with the rampant use of the green magic. The infused youth were mentally underdeveloped, vicious, and bloodthirsty. The magic also seemed to scar the land and was changing their skin. Green blotches bloomed on the orcs' bodies, slowly erasing the earthy brown colors. Duraton strongly disliked what was happening. This fell energy had nothing to do with the Frostwolf way. But the Frostwolf shaman begged Duraton to let him learn to be a warlock. The elements were silent and they were difficult to control. If Duraton told his shaman no, he would be at a serious disadvantage. It wouldn't be fair. Against his better judgment, Duraton allowed fell magic to be learned and used by the Frostwolves. Welcome to the Cleft of Shadows, friends. It's a nice break from the heat outside. Surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of people in here. It does feel pretty warlocky. In our historical story, warlocks aren't very nice, but they eventually figure it out, since we have warlocks in our ranks today.
My most humble greetings, shaman. How might I help my orc sister today? Ah, where did you get this? Good, Margot sent you to me, did he? Well, let's take a closer look.
Arnak Fireblade inspects the searing collar.
Interesting. You found this in Duratar, Lorekanra? Since the last Great War, when the Burning Legion was defeated, I have searched for sources of demonic corruption in Orc society. The collar you brought me confirms my fears. Your role in this tale is nearly complete, Lorekanra. Go to Farwatch Post on the border of the Barrens to the west and speak with my assistant, Oxaloth. Pass on to him this information.
Victory!
I don't know, you guys. It sounds like we might not get the answers we want. He said that our role in this is almost finished, and we haven't gotten any answers about the Burning Blade. And now we're going to his assistant, who theoretically should know less than the master. Well, I flew back to Razor Hill. We're going to turn in the little note written by the innkeeper about the raw meats we delivered.
Blood and thunder.
Have you returned from Orgrimmar? Did Grishka like the meat I sent her? Ha! I guess she did like it. Nothing brings red to a lady's cheeks like a big, juicy steak. Thank you, Lorekanra. You've done me a great service. Here is some money for your trouble, and don't be surprised if I invite you to my wedding.
Apparently in orc culture, instead of getting your loved one a ring for engagement, you get her a big juicy steak. I guess that does seem a little bit more practical. We'll travel back to the Barrens and hear the last portion of our story. Times for the orcs were changing and twisting. Ogres were allowed into the ranks of the new horde, the enemy they had been fighting since the dawn of their existence. The orcs had to fight alongside their former slavers. A few orcs spoke out against these changes. They saw how it sacrificed their way of life. But it wasn't wise to stand against Blackhand. Any who opposed him were publicly executed. Unite or die for the Horde.
This is not news to me. While I appreciate your efforts, the burning blade will have to wait. We have other matters to which we must attend.
That's it? That's where we end? We spend our first 14 levels hunting down these burning blade cultists, and you're telling me that it doesn't even matter. He doesn't even give us a non-burning blade quest. He just stops talking. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the end of Durotar. That last quest. Very anticlimactic. Oh, well, I guess I'll turn in this recommendation letter. He just says I have to earn the recommendation, and I have to do quests here to do that. But don't let this sad zone ending dissuade you from playing an orc or a horde. As we heard about in our story, the orcs and the horde are such an interesting group. This place just doesn't do them justice. There are many more interesting zones to come, including the Northern Barrens, which we are now entering. There is still so much to learn about the orcs. How did the war between the orcs and the Draenei play out? How did the orcs wind up on Azeroth? How did the Tauren and Trolls and Undead and Blood Elves join the orcs under the Horde faction? What happened to our heroes, Duratan and Orgrim? Or our villain, Gul'dan? All of these answers come with Lorekanra and Pebble questing past Durotar. But that will need to wait until other Starter Zone videos are finished. And last but not least, let's look at our timeline one last time from the starting zone story we covered. Unsettled by the elements' odd behavior and the destruction of one of their clans, the orcs decide to unite under the name the Horde. 8 years before the Dark Portal. Shortly after that, the war on the Draenei begins. But during the following 2 years, they don't make much progress, so a war chief is nominated. 5 years before the Dark Portal. A little before the war chief is nominated, though, something called the Shadow Council, a group of elite warlocks that only answer to Gul'dan, slowly rise to power and begin influencing all of the other clans. The Horde now begin their focused assault on the Draenei people. And that ends our beginning playthrough of the orc starting area. If you guys liked Lorekanra and Pebble, and the story of the orcs, then leave me a like. Until next time, Lorekanra and Pebble are signing out.